Hi, it's Gina Brown. I'm doing my first live stream Google Chat. It was suggested to me by some young people because they thought I had a message that would resonate with people. And I'm also happy to do so because I'm proof you can teach an old dog new tricks. I wanted to share something about myself so you'll know who I am and a little bit about where I come from because I think that's important before you will be able to follow what I talk about. Because what I want to do is build loyalty word through oral talking of the word. We've heard enough his story. Her story is a mystery. It's missed. Missed. It's a missed story. The story about mothers. My mom. Fresh cut flowers for my mom. My daughter bought this for me one Mother's Day, and it's so beautiful. I keep it open, kind of sitting up on my bedside table. Remember, put together the parts of memories that strengthen me and encourage me to be the change that I seek. We hear that all the time, but what does it really mean? I want to talk about mothers in love. Love is a being, it's an unconditional state of being. You are being love. Um, I come from a place called West Virginia in America, and there's this red bandana on the wall says West Virginia Mine Wars. Well, I had a great grandfather named Charlie O'Neill who fought in that labor battle in 1921. Oh, it's a missed story. It's a missed story because it's not mentioned until the last few years. Has anything been written about this? It was actually some boys on a four wheeler riding up a mountain and found some that they found an archaeological site, and a lot of people in that county are have tried to save that because it's the second largest civil uprising other than the Civil War. I'm very fortunate that my people were a part of that 1819 year labor struggle in the state of West Virginia. And I was probably about 22 when my great grandfather, passed away. So I was able to hear firsthand and secondhand accounts from my grandfather, who was born in 1919, about this war, Battle for Blair Mountain. And this was the first Union, and had black, white, and immigrants all breaking bread, looking for equal pay. So that's an important part of the story. But a major part of the story, and I didn't realize how fortunate I was to hear these things until lately, is that there was a labor leader. Most people in the world have never heard of her, called Mother Jones. That's her picture right here. And she's a fussing. She's fussing and cussing. She's in Montgomery, West Virginia, in this picture. She traveled all over the place wherever there was labor battles. She's most known for uh, changing child labor laws and marching against child labor. But a lot of things that people don't know about her is that she empowered women. And she empowered women because women had to be the ones to live in the tents for very long times while the men were striking. If the men broke the strike or their will was broken because they couldn't feed their children, and believe me, children were dying of malnutrition back in the early teens and the early 20s. Um, if it weren't for the women, the men could not have stayed on strike. The men could not have pushed for a system change. It's for me, it's called a system change. They wanted a change in the system of the way they were being paid, the way they were being treated, the way they were living. And today, it's the same thing. We all know, and some of the things you hear me say are probably things you may have heard on the internet from other people who are in the what they call truth movement or sovereignty movement or conspiracy movement or politics or heck, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. You can call me anything you want to call me. My kids' friends call me Mama Brown, and I don't care because I love you. I love you. And I learned the kind of love that I have from my mother, my aunts, my people that grew up on the creeks where this lady came and spoke. Okay. Now you have to imagine a ravine, a very deep ravine. And imagine that ravine being between some mountains that are 6,000 feet high. And these ravines had creeks running. Some of them would run back 30, 40 miles. Well, that was called a place called Cabin Creek in West Virginia. That's where my people are from. And that's where I got the stories of Mother Jones, that she came on Cabin Creek fussing. And she was 60 years old, people, 60 years old when she decided that she would start helping the labor movement because of the injustices she saw. She'd lost everything she had. So the story today is not about Mother Jones, but it is about moms, mothers, me, you, how it matters. The word matter is also a word from mother or netter, nature, the mother. Okay. So in this little depiction, it says, I asked a man in prison once how he happened to be there, and he said he'd stolen a pair of shoes. Well, I told him if he'd have stolen a railroad, he'd have been a U.S. senator. Smart lady, wasn't she? And I like this one because she was clearly about 70-something years old when they caught her coming up Cabin Creek. I'm going to tell you some stories about her coming up there and how she went under aliases and how she was very instrumental in gaining information about the number of guards and the prices in the stores and the major role that she played because they downplayed this woman. Magazine Mother Jones is really not about Mother Jones. My grandfather said that was, well, I don't want to say what he said. But this one, I like this one too. And there is a museum, motherjones.org, and on Facebook, she's at Mother Jones Lives. And if you'll like that page and go visit, there's an interactive map where you can see where she traveled all over the place. She went to Mexico, and they're like, why are you going down there? And she said, well, they asked me to come. And every man is my brother, and every woman is my sister. She's a smart woman. She said, whatever the fight, don't be ladylike. God Almighty made women, and the Rockefeller gang of thieves made the ladies. Now, she was addressing women in 1915 after the Ludlow Massacre when she said that. So don't be ladylike, because God or nature made women. And as women and as the ones who give birth, we know when shit hits the fan and things get bad, women take control. Women have always had to take control. And we do that because we know we have children and grandchildren that are coming after us. And so it's important for women to regain their power and to understand that truly we can implement by our loyalty to a peaceful, non-compliant way of telling the system we want our children to get paid. We're tired of false, fixed elections. We're tired of the manipulation of outcomes by people in high places. My grandfather used to say, they always knew who would be the president. We have to wait till November. It's kind of like that. So what you want to say, that back in the 40s they needed to put tinfoil on their heads because they were conspiracy theories? No, no, they knew the system. And I want to teach you some old ways of organizing because I'm an organizer. That was a big mistake. They taught me organizing. But I'm also a storyteller. But I'm telling you, because of that Cabin Creek and that long 35, 40-mile stretch and all of the little coal mines along the way, grandfather said there was one way in and one way out. And in every one of those mountains in West Virginia, I guess it looks sort of like Germany, um, there was one way in and one way out. And if you were a womanizer on the creek, everybody knew it. If you were a liar on the creek, everybody knew it. If you were a thief on that creek, everybody knew it. So you had to be who you said you were. You had to mean what you say what you mean, and you needed to say it again. People trusted by word and by their loyalty of their heart. And this was not something that they would say out loud. This was something they knew internally. And this is things that we see happening around the world today. People are like waking up and just knowing inside that this is not a world that we conceived as children as equitable. This is not the world that we want for our neighbors. I mean, I talk to my neighbors, they're pretty good people. I talk to the people down the street, they're pretty good people. I see people at the neighborhood store where I'm shopping, they're all pretty good people. And, you know, where do we get this idea about all this evil and all of this terror and all of this horror? From media, propaganda. And what I heard when I was a child was that propaganda was propping Pappy up. Pappy, like an old man, my grandfather, Pappy. Propping Pappy up. So for propping Pappy up, who would that be? Well, my friends, it's patriarchy. It's patriarchy, not matriarchy or the mother. It's the father. This is the system of patriarchy that is being propped up by the major media and the hidden hand, whom my great grandfather, 6 or 7, you know, he came behind me. He said, "Corporate master's going to get you." And I would jump. I didn't know who corporate master was, and it would scare me. And I'd say, "Papa, who is corporate master?" And and he said, "He's everywhere. You have to be very careful." And you know, maybe the next time I went to visit, another time he'd say, "Corporate master's gonna get you, little girl. Little girl, he's gonna get you for that." And I would say to him, you know, as I got older along the way, because Papa would tell the same jokes kind of over and over, and maybe I'll tell you some of those same jokes. That's the oral word loyalty building through story. It's like a parable, the way Jesus taught. Okay, and this corporate master, as I got older, you know, I'm like, okay, great grandfather, you know, I call him Papa. I said, okay, who is corporate master now? I'm not. I don't know. You don't get me down there in Florida. I don't know who this is. Granddaughter, this could be your teacher. This might be your employer. This might be your mayor. This might be your friend. But corporate master is everywhere. And he will never let you go any higher than he wants you to go. So what do you mean by that, Papa? He said, because if you were born poor, you're going to stay poor. If you was born middle class, you'll likely stay middle class. And I did not quite understand that back then, because another time he had told me corporate master was everywhere, watching everything I did. And I thought, he's a crazy old man. You know, it's after these people die that you start thinking about the things they said, and suddenly something happens and you realize the depth of the truth that this person is trying to share with future generations. Because think about it, he didn't have a smart TV that could look at me, talk to me, listen to me. Because if you haven't watched Edward Snowden's Citizens 4, you should. Because even these little cell phones we carry around, they can listen while we're talking. And that is what that man tried to do, is educate the American public about what our military industrial complex is doing to its own citizens. I got one of these right here. Um, you know, but I'm none of those things that people may say I am. And I certainly look back upon the things that my grandfather and his father said, and everything that they said has come true. And if this is the world that has been created for us to live in, and we have become, instead of good little workers, we've become good little consumers. Um, and we think we have these things that occupy us. And as Edward Snowden said, he just didn't like that we were being distracted by entertainers while bills were being passed in the office and thing. I thought that was a very smart reason for giving away his freedom to live here, that he loved us enough to tell the truth. And sometimes, one, you do it unconditionally. You don't worry about the outcome, because for sure, I don't know what the outcome might be of me making this video. I've certainly been ostracized and by practicing my civic duty. I've been, hurt financially through, you know, good old boy systems. Um, and I have people, that in my family that have been involved in labor and also in politics throughout the years, and have many stories to share with you about those things. So, like Mother Jones, who started at 60, I'm 58, and I look at that book, Fresh Cut Flowers, for my mom, and I'm grateful to be a mother, to have a couple of girls that I hope will continue to pass some stories down, because the word is the bond. And one day, the missed story, or the mystery of the mother will be known to all of us, and that we will understand how much she loves us, and how we live in a perfectly beautiful, beautiful paradise on earth right here, right now. It's our perception that must change. And we must not allow the propaganda, the propaganda. We cannot allow that propaganda to confuse us. Because once you have an ear to hear, you will always hear, and you will be drawn to the truth. Your own soul will draw you to the truth. You have eyes to see, you will see, and you'll be seeing with your eye that is within a good heart. So, when the old ancient Egyptians weighed a person's soul by the weight of their heart, if it weighed more than a feather, they couldn't pass on to a better life. So the populace knew that they needed to be good and make good choices, so that their heart would be light when they die. They wouldn't have a lot of stuff on their conscience, they wouldn't have this problem when they passed to the afterlife. But later glyphs, you see that the priests were kind of holding the scales, the balance scales, because uh, if you paid the priesthood in shucky dolls, in archaeology, I like history and watching that stuff. And they started uncovering all these little clay dolls, and they're like, what are these dolls? Well, what they were is offerings to the temple, and you could buy the lightness of heart, or you could pay for your salvation. Now, I think ever since they realized that they could make some money in a vicarious salvation, selling salvation, I think they've been selling you and I salvation ever since they realized they can make some money off of it instead of telling us live by the lightness of your heart, because my heart is light. I have a lot of love. I'm sending you a lot of love. I'm sending you all the light I have and can resource out, because there's not enough. And if we only knew how bountiful it is, as Jesus said, the field is ripe for the harvest and the workers are very few. So let us continue to make videos to encourage each other to continue this hard work. It's a loving work. It must be done with the hand, as Marty Leeds 33 on YouTube. I love that guy. If you ever get a chance, watch Marty Leeds. He talks about manifesting with our hands. That's our purpose. And I think it was Prince that said, we're here for one of two reasons. I mean, if you want to know why we're here, I thought it was the most profound thing. He said, we're either here to enlighten or we're here to discourage. And I chose to love and enlighten a very, very long time ago. But I'm grateful for my upbringing and the people that taught me, that went before in my generation, in my family. And I'll talk to you more about that, how it was passed down through the mothers. Um, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And lastly, I would like to say, um, I hear a lot about Black Lives Matter. I don't think I've heard Black Lives Matter talk about Dr. Sebi. And Dr. Sebi is a black man that died in Honduras in jail. And all I want to say about that is it was a crime. It's criminal. The world lost a man. If you watch him on YouTube, Eat to Live or Eat to Die, he tells you it was his mother. His mother taught him the things that he knew and learned. And so, anyone who honors the mother can't be far from wrong. Uh, so, women, this video is to empower you. Um, People, they used to say Gina Brown on the ground. Yeah, Gina Brown on the ground. That's when I thought I could do it by politics, and found out that that ain't the way to go. Um, but I am here for you. You can reach me anytime. Leave a comment. I got a website, Gina Brown, JEANA Brown.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Gina Brown. Um, I'll be hanging around and I'll be talking to you more on this YouTube Google Chat thing ever since these youngins said that I could do this live. Because I talk like this all the time when I go to the market or anywhere. I'm always teaching people about Pawpaw and Corporate Master. We need to talk about that guy. And I like to say they have the checkbook up there in DC, and the bankers and all these people. They got the checkbook. Well, give it back to the wife. The wife can balance the checkbooks. Yeah, because when shit hits the fan, it's always the mothers who make that potato soup, who make that porridge, who make that small way to get by. And you know what? We're a heck of a lot better at running things than most men. And that's not to discard men, but let's discard uh, propaganda. Because if we have a balance of patriarchy and matriarchy, it would be a beautiful world, one worth living in, and we wouldn't have a suicide every 15 minutes in America. I don't know how it is all over the rest of the world, but it's a pretty bad situation. So we see the world around us. We know it's quite a beautiful place. Just look at nature and you know she loves you. Um, but let's work on resonating our hearts to love each other and do this in ways where we are peacefully non-compliant. Oh yeah, that reminds me. I said I was going to teach you an action. Oh, well, I'll have to do it on the next video. Be peacefully non-compliant with the system. There's ways to do that from home. I don't advise anybody to go out picketing because they truly do put you on a list and ostracize you, and it's very difficult to do actions out in the streets and then them not be infiltrated. I was the same way in the 1900s, in the 1910s and 1920s. I mean, they put provocateurs and operatives into labor unions and strikes and created riots and stuff like that. And see, this is not what we need for a systems change. We don't need a third world war. We don't need um, a panic. We don't need those operatives stepping into manufactured movements to create chaos. As we, as human beings, decide and determine for ourselves whom we will support, love, and commission to uh, help bring about a change, these things will happen naturally by nature. It's going to happen anyway. Um, but my preference is that we have an abundance and stop believing the lie of this scarcity, a fear of scarcity, and that some man-made organization can stop world hunger. You know, my aunt just told me this morning if that was the truth, they would have already stopped it. So it's up to us, people. You know, organic garden, do what you can to eat healthier and love yourself a little more, and just think at 60 you can have a new career. You can do anything you want to do in this world. It's what we're here for, to either enlighten or discourage. So I hope I've enlightened you today. I hope I've shared a little love. I also hope that you're empowered. I hope that you're empowered. Yeah, to do something. Get up and do something. Just do this position. It's the why. Like when you run across the Olympic finish line and you hold your hands up. Yes, I just broke the ribbon. Stand up and hold that pose for 2 minutes. And I'm gonna tell you something. Something happens in your brain. You'll feel that dopamine and that adrenaline. You'll feel, and you are a winner. I promise. A mother's not gonna lie to you. I love you very much, and I hope you'll tune in again. And a good day to you today.